Hello and welcome to Joomla Reviews from Smart Tactics. In today's review, I'm looking at newsletter components. Now, there are a lot of newsletter components and it's actually a very big area. How you send out messages to your users, how you control the messages that you send, and how the users elect to be on the mailing list in the first place. Going over to the Joomla extensions directory, you can see that in the newsletter area, there are quite a few components here. AcyMailing, vmod, Acajoom, CC Newsletter, and many others. But I'm going to throw in a curveball here. You see, in the scenario that we have in many of our sites, the editors are not back-end administrators of the site. They have their user groups and they have their content, and they want to communicate their content to their user groups, but without having access to the back-end. So the curveball I'm throwing in here is I'm looking for a newsletter component that controls, well, exclusively from the front end. Now, I accept that there's back-end setup to be done. We will do that for the user. But I want the editor users to be able to send their emails directly from the front end, compile them, and control them themselves. Now, if you think about it, that's actually something that any owner of large sites would like to be able to do. They want their users to be able to control what happens and not have to instigate all the actions themselves. So let's have a look. Scanning down the main protagonists here, actually AcyMailing, vmod, CC Newsletter, all of these that we have in this list can be crossed out because none of them have that front-end capability, save for Acajoom. But I'm not going to begin with Acajoom because, rather bizarrely, newsletter components are also in this related category called mailing and distribution lists. So we see AcyMailing and a few others. So anyway, I've selected a few, and let's go straight over to our demo system and let's have a look at some of them. So here we have QVarnish, the first one I found. And we go into the QVarnish page, and here's my front-end control, which is marvellous. So, as an editor of the site, I have front-end control. I can type in a subject, and I can type in the body of the email, and I can send it. And that's all the control that I have. Now, that's fantastic. That allows me to do an email broadcast. But there's some downsides to this. In the sites that we run, we have many editors and many different groups. There seems to be no way of selecting which group to go here. Indeed, I'm not entirely sure that the members of the group can actually elect to be in a group. What this seems to me to be as exactly what it calls itself mass mail. It is in fact a blast out to all users. Without any control from the user's perspective, or really from the editor's perspective to select who it goes to. We're based in the EU. I'm actually concerned that this is in breach of EU anti-spam laws, but we'll leave that one aside. This has not got enough control for our purposes. So here we have HEC mailing, or HEC mailing, whichever. You'll see that it seems to have more controls than we have in QVarnish. There's the ability to have templates. There's the ability to create groups. This is a group that I created in the back end. Whilst you need to know a little bit of French, there didn't seem to be an English language variant in the back end. It's relatively easy to work out what needs to happen to be able to create your groups. Now that the groups are created, and I'd select my group, very easy for me to create a subject, create a message, and send. What isn't here is the ability to integrate or pull in items of content with their content links. So I actually need to write and type those myself. It's not automatically going to pull in any of that information to me. There isn't any ability either to add in any attachments or other nice features such as those. But as a basic communication out to various groups of users, this certainly hits the spot. What I'm not sure about here, and it doesn't really show me, is again this subject of subscribing and unsubscribing. It's very important in the EU certainly to ensure that there is this double opt-in. Moving on now to Acajoom. This is one of the most popular and best supported newsletter components that are available for Joomla. You'll see that immediately that my subscriptions is here. This is quite clearly showing me that there is an obvious subscribe and unsubscribe, and I'm presuming that this is available to all users. And that gives me confidence about any of that spam compliance that I spoke about. Lists, this seems to be the lists of newsletters, and great, I can create new newsletters. In fact, there's a couple here that create a new newsletter this way, and you'll see that I have the editor fields. One of the interesting things here to note is that I have both an HTML and non-HTML emailing field. This is great because it indicates to me that what's going to be sent is a multi-part email. So those people who aren't viewing in HTML, say they're viewing emails on their BlackBerry, will still be able to read my email, which is great news. What's unclear to me, and I just cannot see, is how I actually send a saved email. And this seems to be the great limitation and the reason why I can't use it for this particular project. I have to say I'm a little disappointed with Acajoom. It seems a strange omission to me that you can't send your newsletter from the front end. We've had to discount it from this particular project because of it. There is something else about Acajoom as well. It's originally a Joomla 1.0 component. It's now been converted across to 1.5, but not using the MVC development standard. Therefore, we know that changing things, tuning it to our exact needs, might be a little more difficult than a real Joomla 1.5 component. And that's where I'm going to go to now, AcyMailing. Sadly, on our demo system, I'm not really able to show you what ACY can do in the front end. The front end component of ACY is only available with their top end Pro version. As you see, I'm logged into their site now, so if I go into their main mailing list and see what I get from the front end. Aha! There's an example newsletter. Clearly it's published and this one is unpublished. But I can also see I can create a new mailing, just as I would want to do. Now, what I know from previous work is that each newsletter list here is linked up with groups that I determine myself in the back end. This is fine for our purposes. We can link newsletter lists to groups of users. What my editors want to do is to create their new mailing, which is exactly what they can do here, and add attachments. They could also create a multi-part mailing. As you'll see, we have an HTML version and the text version here. In fact, that text version is automatically generated from the HTML version. It takes the text, strips out all the HTML, and just creates my text mailer, which is fantastic, so I don't have to prepare it myself. So, I can actually save my new test mailer and go back into it. I can preview it and I can send it. Finally, I've got the capability that I want, and it seems like AcyMailing is the best option for me.